Hello and welcome to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Loraine Matthews, who is a stress management coach. So we're going to be having lots of exciting discussions about stress and managing emotional problems and mental problems and stressful problems. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mirella.
Can you tell us a little bit about your job as a stress management coach, what you actually do?
What I do is actually work from a holistic perspective. So I look at the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and also at the soul level. So, for example, sometimes people can't understand why they're doing everything right. They are doing techniques, they're doing the exercises, etc. But sometimes it's quite deep. So it could be at a soul level where they're struggling to actually get up and get moving. So, yeah.
So they're doing the right thing, they're eating the right foods,
Yes.
they're just like looking after their health, but something mentally or spiritually is not sort of clicking in.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. And what are some examples of people that would come to see you?
Well, I can, one particular example which comes to mind, a guy in his late 40s and was very angry, and he couldn't understand why he was so angry.
Yeah.
Had a lot of, there was a lot of situations in his life whereby, you know, one day he just said, look, this is what's happening. He had been bullied by his dad, had 2 marriages break down, and when his third daughter was only 6 months old, his wife left and went back to England. And so he then used alcohol to cover up his pain. And basically he was known as rough and tough. Never dealt with his emotion, never dealt with the pain. It was like, oh, it's too hard. And
Like the stiff upper lip, as they say.
Yeah, stiff upper lip. No, that's the past. It's got nothing to do with the now.
Disconnected
Just
from it. Yeah.
totally disconnected. Disconnected in all areas.
Yeah, and didn't want to feel.
Didn't want to
about
feel,
it. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Didn't want to feel. And didn't want to connect with people.
Yeah.
And he was a loner, so which made it worse. And his only thing was work. So which meant he would go to work, and if someone looked at him even the wrong way, he was ready to punch them in their face.
Wow.
So the anger was, quite, people were very, very aware of his anger.
Yeah, and probably scared around him.
Yes.
He was like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then what happened? How did you help him sort of to overcome? Because this is really good. If someone that's watching is in the situation now where they're angry and they're uptight and they haven't dealt with their emotional past, and they don't want to connect with their emotional past, and they just think it's better, it's more peaceful just to cut and not even think about it, but yet it's welling up inside them. There's a lot of maybe people that might be going through that this could actually help if they're watching right now.
Yeah, I think the first thing is acknowledging what is happening, acknowledging the anger, acknowledging the pain, acknowledging, what has actually happened. Acknowledge the fact of the physical abuse that he experienced with his dad, acknowledging the loss of not seeing his little girl. And at that stage, I think she was 13.
Yeah.
And just, and to see the loss in his face of like, oh, I wonder what my little girl looks like. And being able to also connect into the fact that he was using the alcohol to numb his feelings.
Yeah.
So I think it's like everything else. Once you start to acknowledge, and you're able to then take the next step and go, okay, have an awareness. I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's where he was at. It was literally saying, I need to do something about this. So I just said to him, look, there's no point talking about it unless you're willing to take action. Because he was just going around and round in circles.
What, just going around in circles and just talking about the same old thing over again? Is that what you mean by that?
Actually, I should rephrase that because what was really important was to acknowledge, yes, the pain was there, but what was he going to do about it?
Okay, so he acknowledged the pain was there. He got to the point where he thought, I can see this is pain, and he felt it again, did he? Yeah, so that would have been hard for him as well to go through that again.
And absolutely, and then it was like, I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
This is too hard for me. I don't
come
want
up again. Yeah.
The walls kept coming up, and then through just talking and just saying,
okay.
bringing awareness
Yeah.
that a lot of men go through this. Not only men, women, children, but men especially, because a lot of men feel like they're on their own. There's no one else there to support them. And when they realize that they're not alone, that this situation of being bullied, like he was also bullied as a child. He was, he's a very, very gentle soul, but was badly bullied when he was a child, and whereby he was kicked so badly that his kidneys, there was a malfunction with his kidneys. He was bleeding, and so then, as he says in his own words, he became the bully. And so when we can look beyond and see that whatever is present is more than just what we think it is. And so that was basically him, so it was literally doing a little one step at a time, looking at, okay, where we are at, what can we do right now? And then just doing some simple breathing exercises, helping, because he was also out of his body.
Can you explain what you mean by he was out of his body for the viewers?
Okay, what happens is when people go through trauma, quite often they disassociate. And I'm sure you've been around people sometimes, you've gone, like no one's home, the lights are on but no one's home. Is that when the painful triggers happen in them, it's too hard to stay present, to stay focused. And so it's easier for them to totally drift away.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So they automatically switch off when the pain's too hard for them, they'll switch off.
Yes.
That's powerful. It's good. It's good to be able to articulate these kind of things for people. And so then what's the next step when they get to that stage?
And one of the steps that I use is just breathing, bringing the person back into the body. And on saying that, I mean, I'll share personal experience. For me, quite often that used to happen when I first started my journey. And so because of that, I was able to recognize that I needed to come back into my body, meaning I needed to associate back in, be present. And that's what breathing does, brings you in, so you're into the present, and you're able to then articulate what's happening. Not necessarily straight away, but through...
Oh, well, we'll go to a break now. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit further about it. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. We're here with Loraine Matthews, who is a stress management coach, if you've just joined us. So welcome back to the program. Loraine, can you tell us a little bit about what led you into this kind of field to help people with, traumas in their life and things that have actually made them disconnect from being in the present moment?
I think, Mirella, it was my own experience, and when I was going through the whole process, because I'd gone through the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, sexual, financial abuse, actually all areas. And I remember going to people, psychologists, different counselors, and recognizing that these things that I was talking about, they were like, they couldn't understand where I was coming from. And I think it was just part of that whole process of sometimes, yes, they did, and sometimes no.
This is the counsellors didn't
understand. That's right, yes.
You,
And that's where sometimes I had to look at it and go, so what was it? And I just kept praying. And I asked, and literally I was praying and said, Lord, teach me. Help me to break the cycle of generations of abuse, because that's what it was there. It wasn't that people did it deliberately. They just didn't know any other way. It was part of culture. It was just part of ways that they just did it. And so through this process of just constantly praying, saying, just teach me, show me a way. How can I do this differently? And that's where little by little I was being shown how to sort of come back, how to feel more at peace with myself, come back into my body, feel settled, feel grounded, and to be able to have the awareness of when I was out of it. Sometimes there would be things that would be triggered. And through that process, knowing that, I need to stop for a second, I need to breathe. And through that process, which was, sometimes one step forward, 10 steps back, but it was a process where I was able to bring myself into a center, bring myself into a place of peace, and from that place then make different decisions. And from that place knowing that I was able to not fall into those same patterns. I didn't have to disassociate. I was able to then go, oh, okay, this is causing me a little bit of anxiety here. I can feel my anxiety and go, okay, I can do something different this time. So that was a learning process for me as well. And so that's why now I think quite often I can actually see things before they happen in others as well, because I've been through that process myself. And I think that's why the results are really very positive.
Yeah.
Because I'm not using it from a textbook. It's my own personal journey of having gone through 15 major traumas, one after the other, which was like a domino effect.
God.
And I'm so grateful to God that today, you know, I can give praise and glory to Him that I'm still here.
And how do you think you managed to get through it? Was it just through prayer? Was that the most important part that got you through it?
Definitely through prayer, but also through talking to different people, as in going to different counselors as well. And from that place, being able to look at what worked, what didn't work, what was missing. And because what was happening for me through the traumas was more at a deeper soul level. And this is why so many people at the moment are who come to see me are like saying, you know, look, I can't understand. There's simple things where they were so articulate are not able to be articulate. They were going to, in a way, going through the dark night of the soul, where everything that was familiar was becoming unfamiliar. And being able to get a handle on it sometimes, and just knowing that part of this process is just 1 second at a time, 1 moment at a time, for that's all there is.
And sometimes I guess these people as well, and when they're going through this, everybody needs someone just to be loving and listening to them without judgment, so that they can speak freely and then they can accept their situation or deal with their situation. What would you say about that?
It is so true, because in that process also too, where I knew there were a lot of people who were around me who were also professional people, a lot of my friends, but they didn't understand my journey at the time. So there was that aloneness in that, because it wasn't just something in the head. It wasn't like, you know, use this technique and you can switch. And I did heaps of technology, you know, NLP, hypnosis, all sorts of different things. But it wasn't about that. It was about being still and allowing things to unfold in divine timing. So, and which is very difficult for the mind to come to terms with, because we want everything done yesterday, and it's that struggle. It's like, but why not? I could do this. And suddenly realizing I couldn't even make a salad. You know, so it was like, whoa.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So you must have had a big shift then.
It was.
And it was coming to the acknowledgement of doing everything happens in divine time. Was that the thing that gave you the peace and that let things unravel in the right time?
Yeah. And I think one of the other things that was there very much present was the fact of God's love, just love that was fully present. And knowing that through love, nothing is impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like love covers everything, because love is, because a lot of the time there's a lot of these things happen with people when we don't forgive. You know, we have to forgive, because forgiveness is so powerful. Like it even says that in the Bible, that you need to forgive, and you'll be judged on the way you forgive others. You know, all of that, isn't it? It's all part of it.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting that when we're talking about forgiveness too, and is that sometimes we can forgive in our head, but we haven't released it from our mind, our body, our spirit, and our soul, and hence then things are recreated. And that's when you go like, how come I've forgiven that? Why am I recreating these situations? But when we can give from the core of our soul and see every single person who comes into our life as a gift, it becomes a totally new game.
Wow.
Which is very exciting.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so what happened with this guy that you worked with?
I was just going to say that, and I thought, I just And the most amazing thing is the miracles that's happened as he so slowly, he made the commitment. And I really honor and salute the divinity in him because he made the commitment to keep chipping away. I think he was like a Michelangelo, chipping away little at a time, little at a time. And he went back to England, made peace with his father, and his father's partner's wife actually said to him, that was one of the greatest days.
Oh, it's
because
we'll have to go to a break, but we'll continue with what happened to him after the break. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Loraine Matthews, who is a stress management coach. Welcome back to the program. Thanks. Now, we're talking about one of the people that came to see you, and he had a lot of anger issues in the beginning and a lot of resentment and hostility towards people and unforgiveness, and it was causing a lot of problems for him. But we're talking now, he actually made a huge turnaround through just slowly chipping away, as you said. Can you continue on the story with him? Yes, because what happened, did a lot of forgiveness work, worked with the mind, so looking at thoughts that he was choosing towards his father and to other people as well. So we worked mentally. We also looked at the emotional level, what was coming up, worked with that as well. Looked on the physical level, what was happening within him, what was the anxieties that was coming up. So worked from the anxiety point of it and also from a spiritual point of it. And just looking, so each of that, by working and then bringing in the forgiveness, had an amazing impact. And when he went back to England and knocked on his, I think knocked on the door of where his dad was living, his dad was like so amazed. And to be able to then sit down, and he said to his dad, I've always wanted to go to the pub and have a meal with you, have a drink together. And they went and they talked and talked and talked. And it was a turning point, not only for him. Apparently his dad cried and cried the next after he had left. And it's been a process, and like now he still talks to his dad, and like for an hour and maybe even more at a time. And recently he's just come back from another trip, which was just 2 months ago. He also took his children and grandchildren to see his dad. And one of his proud moments is that they have 4 generations with his dad. And his dad is so happy, just knowing that my client had the guts to say, Dad, I didn't like what happened, but I forgive you, and just the peace that's come in this family is just so remarkable. It just shows that where love is present, love changes everything. And love conquers everything. And with love, nothing is impossible. And sometimes it means reaching out, like he did, reaching out and to the perpetrators and saying, it's okay, you've done this. I can't change anything that's happened. But in this present moment, I want to reach out and say, I love you. Thank you for being my dad. I love you. And just the miracles that's happened in this family have been unbelievable. And it's so exciting. Wow. Because it is true. It's like even in today's gospel, they were saying, love your enemy. Like, do good to those who hate you. If they hit you on one cheek, turn the other cheek. God is saying something in that. He wants us just to love, continue to love. No matter what, because there's a power in there. And that's just proven it with that story. And love conquers everything. And, through the power of love, I think there's nothing that cannot be accomplished. And, here he held this for 13. He hadn't spoken to his dad for 25 years before that. My gosh. Before that, when he first went back, I think would have been back in 2002. Gee, that's after 25 years. And he would say, if his dad was walking on this side of the road, he'll cross to the other side.
And like to now see he'd gone back just in this recent trip 2 months ago, and to be able to, spoke to his dad every single day, and it's just lovely.
Do you know what the point was that made him decide that he actually wanted to improve his situation? What was the trigger?
The trigger is he realized he was the one suffering.
Right.
Yeah. He was suffering, and he was blaming everyone else for why his life wasn't working.
Yeah.
And also, too, he hadn't seen his little girl after 13 years.
Oh, gosh,
yes.
yeah.
So he went back and met his little girl after 13 years, but also made peace with his ex-wives.
Yeah.
And recently
ex-wives,
yes.
Okay, yeah.
And he recently went back for his daughter's wedding.
Oh, wow.
So, and I was just, truly amazing.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Because he was ready to receive. I mean, there might be people still walking around like that are full with anger, and they're not talking to people for 25 years in their family, but they're not ready to open. And he, at that moment, he was ready to open to you and receive the goodness and the help.
I think one of the questions that I always said to him, if this was the last day to live, what would he do differently? Because we never ever know.
Yeah. Exactly.
When is the last day? And there's a wonderful thing that says never ever go to bed angry.
Yeah.
And if we can sometimes choose to rise above our ego and say we're sorry, even when we haven't done anything wrong, it really moves mountains.
Yeah. Because it brings the peace back. Even if you're the one who hasn't caused it and you weren't the one that was angry, you weren't the one with a mental problem. And someone's crazy, they're like, but if you're the one that makes them laugh or makes peace again, then there's peace back there. I guess it doesn't matter who does it, as long as the peace comes back, isn't it?
Yes. It's so true.
Yeah. It's like if there's no love there, put love there. If it's not there, put it there so we can all enjoy it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who puts the love there, let's just have it there all the time.
Yeah.
So, it's like the power is like in seeing Jesus in the other person. If you do that, then who knows what can happen next.
Just miracles. Honestly, miracles happens when you're able to see Christ in each and every one. Miracles unfold.
Wow. And how did he find you through this work?
He found me through someone who had worked with me previously.
As well, like word of mouth.
Yeah, it was just word of mouth.
Because you do work as well with priests as well, like professionals and everything.
Yes.
Lots of people. It's a wonderful job you're doing. I mean, you're changing people's lives. You're literally bringing families back together.
Well, I just feel so grateful to have that honor, really, and I'm so grateful for what God has done in my life.
Yeah.
So if there's something little I can give back,
isn't that beautiful? So you've been healed of all the things, and now you want to give back and help show the way to all the other people. That's wonderful. We're running out of time now, but would you like to come back next week for the program?
I'd love to.
Beautiful. All right, well, thank you for coming on the program, Loraine. You've been watching Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest was Loraine Matthews. See you again next week.